to the entertainment Talking Sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video, and I hope everybody's staying safe out there. Also, tonight, just want to let you guys know I will be live for a live mock draft live stream, so it should be a lot of fun. I'll do some 7-round simulations, some in which we take Isaiah Simmons, some in which we take a tackle, and, I'll let you guys decide a lot of the picks, so it should be a lot of fun, so come on by around 8:30 for that. I'll try to have another video up today, but I definitely wanted to do this video. As I've said, I kind of want to go over all the possible trade down scenarios for the New York Giants. Some, of course, are much more likely than others. I've already done the Chargers. I've done the Jaguars. This will be with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, of course, potentially could be interested in a quarterback. Yes, they went out there. They acquired Marcus Mariota. Carr played decent there. But there have been some rumors that they could be potentially interested in moving up to get a quarterback. How likely is it? It's probably not extremely likely, but I wanted to go over the scenario in which this plays out. And if I were the New York Giants, what would I ask for and what players would I be looking for with those picks, dependent on the situation that presents itself. And like I've said numerous times, if a team is going to trade up that far, it's going to be for a quarterback. I don't see them trading up that far for Isaiah Simmons, even though I have read rumors for that. But in either scenario, this is the price that I would expect. If it were to be a quarterback, I'd probably expect slightly more, just because history shows you that when a team trades up for a quarterback, especially that big of a jump, you traditionally get more on the points chart, and I've talked about this several times. But the Raiders with the Giants, well, I'd expect picks 12 and 19 and possibly an additional future pick, whether it's like a future third, something along those lines. We'll start with the point chart. We'll go over my reasoning, and then we'll get into the players that I'd be looking at if I were the New York Giants. First thing we're going to look at is the point chart. The New York Giants sit, if you look at the top of the screen there on that diagram, at pick number 4 with 1,800 points. The Raiders are at 12 and 19. Pick 12 is worth 1,200. Pick 19 is worth 875 for a total of 1,875. The Giants are worth 1,800 points. Like I've expressed in several of my videos in the past, traditionally when you move up to get a quarterback, expect 20 to 25% rate of return on your point total, which equals actually 2,250. So I'd probably expect at least an additional third, whether it's in this year's draft or a future draft. And in this scenario, I'm going to do 12 and 19 and say a future third, maybe a future second. But I don't expect the Raiders to be giving up any more picks in this year's draft outside of 12 and 19, being that they're trying to build their roster. And in this scenario, they'd be moving up to get a quarterback. The Raiders would go up to 4. We'd fall down to 12 and 19. The Giants' biggest needs at this point in time, I think we all agree, are potentially a middle linebacker, an offensive tackle, a center, a free safety, a wide receiver, an edge rusher. So we have a lot of needs, and if we were to fall down to 12, there's a lot of ways in which we could go, dependent on the players that fell to us. Now, my first option here, obviously Isaiah Simmons is off the board. And this would not be my ideal trade scenario, by the way. I'd much rather the Jaguar trade. I'd much rather the Charger trade, and I'd much rather the Dolphin trade, because then you assure yourself of the player that you want. You're going to definitely get the top tackle if you trade down to 5 or 6, or probably Isaiah Simmons. If you trade down to 9, you're probably still getting the second tackle off the board. In this scenario, you don't even guarantee yourself one of the top 4 tackles, and I'll explain. Now, more than likely, I would say 85 to 90%. You're getting one of the top 4 tackles. But if you look at the draft board right now, the Cardinals, a lot of people think would take tackle at 8. The Browns could definitely take a tackle at 10, and the Jets could definitely take a tackle at 11, which would leave you with the 4th best tackle. It is possible that the Jaguars could take a tackle as well, which would leave you with none of the consensus top 4 tackles. But I would think more than likely at least one of the top 4 would be there at 12. And who knows who it would be. You might even have 2. Who knows? Maybe even 3. And in that scenario, I think you take, obviously, the best tackle on your board. Now, in the rare scenario, if you're the Giants, and let's say Becton falls there, and Wirfs, Wills, and Thomas are off the board, and you're not in love with Becton, you don't think he's worth that pick, you don't think Josh Jones is worthy of a pick here at 12, well, then you have a couple of options. You could definitely go defense, or you could go the best available player on the board that would fill a need. It's not one of our primary needs, but in this video, I'm going over all the scenarios, not necessarily the things I would do. And I think this is the one trade down scenario that opens up the possibility to take a wide receiver. Obviously, we all know we could use a supreme talent at that position since Odell Beckham has left. I don't think it's one of our biggest needs. I've said time and time again, I think this is a rich wide receiver draft class. The only way I'd be okay with this is if the top 3 offensive linemen were off the board, and they weren't in love with any of the defensive prospects in that slot. They thought that Jeudy was way too good to pass up on, and then you would attack the tackle and the defense with your future picks. This was not what I would want to do in an ideal scenario, however. I would want to go with the tackle, whether that's Becton, Wirfs, Wills, or Thomas, if they were there at 12. Now, let's go over some of the different options that we'd have at 19, depending on what we did at 12. If we went with a defensive player or a wide receiver at 12, at 19, if Josh Jones was there, which it's very possible he may not, I think he's the pick. Obviously, if you went tackle, you're not going Jones, but if you don't have a tackle yet, I think Josh Jones makes a lot of sense at pick 19. Now, if Josh Jones is gone, well, then I'm going to turn to a player I've talked about in my last scenario with the Jaguars at pick 20. I think you're looking at a defensive presence. The first guy I'll talk about is a guy that I love, K'Lavon Chaisson, a guy that I think is versatile, could play on both the inside and out, would fit what Joe Judge is looking to do. This makes a lot of sense in the scenario in which you took a tackle. And in this scenario, I think the tackle is by far the most realistic possibility at 12. I'm just saying the wide receiver based on, something out of the realm of possibility where all 4 tackles are gone or the top 3 and you don't love one of them. But if we took a tackle at 12, I think you definitely go with either Chaisson or possibly even Kenneth Murray. I think both these players very well could be on the board. Murray, a very good linebacker prospect, side-to-side quickness, and would definitely fill a need for the New York Giants. Of course, in this scenario, you're not getting Isaiah Simmons, so you're getting, one of the better defensive prospects at 19 to go along with an offensive tackle or possibly a wide receiver at pick number 12. And then at pick 36, I think you have very similar options to what you had in the Jaguar scenario. And I think it's looking more and more likely that the Giants will go with a center at pick 36 and not go with a tackle. Now, they certainly could go with a tackle. There's a number of guys that could be there. I think it depends on who's there and obviously who they have graded where. But if you could get Cesar Ruiz, if you could get Cushenberry, a guy that you think is a day one starter that will be an impact player on your offensive line at pick number 36, I think you got to go ahead and do it here. I don't want to be taking a project at the tackle position. In this scenario, I'm trying to sew up the tackle position at 12, trying to get that defensive player at 19, and trying to go center at 36. Now, like in the other scenario, we'll go over all the options. I didn't pull up a wide receiver, but a wide receiver is certainly a possibility here. If you didn't take one at 12 or 19, being that, you've sewed up 2 other, needs on your team. Do I want that? No. I would much prefer the center. I think it's a much more important area of importance for the New York Giants to fill. Would I be shocked if they took a receiver in this scenario at 36? No. Would I be shocked if they took one at 12, depending who was left on the board and Jeudy was still there? No. Jeudy's a top 10 talent. Even though I don't believe in taking a wide receiver that early, I would not cry if they took one at 12. And then, other than Ruiz, you could definitely go with a defensive presence as well. Outside of the wide receiver or the center at 36. Some of the guys that I've talked about time and time again, you got a guy like Zach Bowen out of Wisconsin. Makes a lot of sense if you took, say, a tackle and K'Lavon Chaisson, then you get Zach Bowen at 36. If you decide not to go with the center, or even a guy like Delpit. You fill that free safety role. 2 guys that may help you somewhat in coverage that kind of fit the mold of this New York Giants defense. Both players would bring some versatility, and that's exactly what Joe Judge is looking for. But my ideal scenario in this format, if we had picks 12, 19, and 36, make no mistakes about it. At the end of the day, it's really the same exact ideal scenario that I had with the Jacksonville Jaguars. At pick 12, I would take the best available tackle. If for some reason all the tackles were off the board, then I'm probably trying to look defense, but at the same time, I don't want to reach. If I feel like Jerry Jeudy is far and away the best prospect after the tackle prospects and all my tackle prospects are gone, maybe I do go Jeudy. Wouldn't be my ideal scenario. That's why I say the Jaguar trade is much more of an attractive option to me because I know I'm getting probably the second tackle off the board, if not the third, but more than likely the second tackle off the board after pick number 8 with the Arizona Cardinals, meaning that I'm either going to end up with Jedrick Wills or Andrew Thomas if that's the guy that I covet, and those guys are the 2 best left tackle prospects. Wirfs is very much still on the board for the New York Giants, though we've heard that time and time again. And it still leaves you a slight possibility of getting Isaiah Simmons if you were to trade down to 9. If you trade down to 12, yes, you get another asset. You probably get a future pick on top of it, and you're picking 1 pick earlier at 19, which gives you a much better opportunity to get a guy like Kenneth Murray or K'Lavon Chaisson as opposed to 20, being that the Raiders covet, in most mocks, Kenneth Murray, so he probably wouldn't be there at 20, but the Jaguar trade is a much better scenario because it guarantees you one of the best tackle prospects. In this scenario, you don't know who you're going to end up with there at 12 because there's a lot of tackle-needy teams. You know that Simmons is going to be gone, and those are obviously our two biggest needs at this point in time. A guy that could cover, a guy that could play the linebacker spot, and a guy that could be the blindside protector for Daniel Jones for years to come. I don't love this trade down scenario, and I would not be overly excited if the Giants were to exercise it. If I knew you were going to get Tristan Wirfs there or Jedrick Wills, absolutely, all aboard, 12-19 and a future pick, but you don't know that. I would much rather, like I said, the Jaguars, Chargers, or Dolphins, but I wanted to go over all the scenarios with you guys, and the Raiders are certainly a team that could possibly trade up for a quarterback. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.